minutes. One thing I also want to point out is that if we're being visited by advanced civilizations, and it's our assessment that certainly we are, who is handling that relationship? Do we cede that management to the military-industrial complex, and what are the consequences of doing so? Think about this very carefully. I remember doing a meeting with the Boutros-Ghali family, the UN Secretary General, his wife Leah Ghali, and we were talking about this. And Leah Ghali turned to me and she said, "Dr. Greer, we need you to do this now. We need you to do." I said, "I'm a country doctor in North Carolina rattling around in an emergency department. You're the head of the world." She says, "No, we can't. It's too dangerous for Boutros." I'm quoting. And then I remember talking to this wonderful Senator Claiborne Pell, who was mentioned earlier, and I was speaking with him, and I would never have gone to college if not for a Pell Grant, because I was very, very, very poor. Grew up in North Carolina, had no resources, put myself through the last years of high school and college and med school, but, I mean, really poor. And most people don't know that, but what I found when I was talking to Senator Pell, who was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, and I was at a meeting with Edgar Mitchell and some other folks, and I looked at him, and he said, "Dr. Greer, I have never been given any information on this, even though I have inquired through any official channels." And I said, "Yes, sir, what a shame, because you, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, have been denied the responsibility of dealing with the ultimate foreign relations issue." And I pointed to the stars above our heads. And he looked at me through those hornworm glasses and said, "Well, you know, Dr. Greer, you may be right." I said, "Well, I am." And I said, "Well, what a shame." So I think this is another dimension. There's the science and technology part of it, but there's the part of it about relationships. And we are not alone in the universe. And we need to have a situation on this planet where our higher nature, our better angels, folks like Senator Pell and others who would approach this in an enlightened way, could reach out and form what has begun to be discussed in the French government that I referred to earlier in this Ministry of Defense memo to me, a peaceful interplanetary, interstellar diplomatic initiative. And to be honest with you, that's how I first got involved with this, was to establish such an effort, which we are doing as a citizens' diplomatic effort. But in the meanwhile, I got diverted into this morass of the national security state because I felt that our leaders need to know, and more importantly, the public need to know. And we need to then figure out how we're going to advance. And in the summary I did for the president, there are a number of action points. And one of them is to appoint internationally a high-level committee of folks who could go out and make a peaceful contact that is not militarized, that is not covert, that is not being run by the national security state, but is being done on behalf of all of us, the children of Earth.